You would think the biggest surprise this fall season would be how shocking Goblin Slayer was, or how a show about teenage zombie idols doing idol stuff isn't shit. But for me, the true champion of the never judge a girl by the outfit she wears competition has to go to the show about a teenager going around dressed in a bunny outfit. And if you think that's it for the show, you're wrong. And so was I. Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai is the most thought-provoking, genuinely emotional show I've seen this season, and is probably one of the best this year. And it really shouldn't be that way. It looks like every high school anime in the known dimension, but what really sets it apart are its narratives, dialogue, and how it paces key events in the characters' developments. It is a really good watch that helps explain the troubles of being a teen who is going through adolescent puberty in the modern age of cell phones and social media. But I'm not here today to explain what makes the show the best of the year, because that's just easy. And also, I think a man named Mother's Basement explained what is best about the show already, so I will leave the link in the description below. And try not to talk about what he said. Think of me as a glasses-glaring surgeon, who is about to dissect a person's inner organs to find out what makes it shine the most. Although, I'm not a surgeon, and if you give me a task of heart surgery, pray for any poor soul that gets into that emergency room. No, what I want to talk about today is how the show uses complex science theories and paradoxes and simplifies them to best understand the mind of everyday teens going through life. Or as I like to call it, Rascal Does Not Dream of Schrödinger's cat senpai. Let's begin with my favorite part. Brief cliff notes about the show. Meet our hero, Sakura Asagawa, typical high school loner who has little to no friends, but somehow is a chick magnet to cute girls. Even... Thanks, Japan. But one in particular that he somehow gets caught in the loop with is a figure named Mai Sakurajima, who appears to him dressed as somebody who must have got lost from the Playboy Mansion. Actually, the reason she wears the suit in the first place is because of her predicament she's in. No one can see her, except for Sakura and a few others. Sakura explains that this could be the sign of puberty syndrome, where teens get supernatural and unexplained misfortunes placed upon them. He was a victim of it after allegations came out about him beating up 3 students and sending them to the hospital. But it was actually him who went, and now has a permanent scar on his chest. This happened the same time as his sister, who was cyberbullied and gained several minor and severe cuts suddenly on her body. This forces both of them to abandon social media and cell phones, and for her to hide in his apartment out of a fear of strangers. And you know how this goes. Sakura helps out Mai in her predicament while also getting over his own hang-ups and letting go of his own internal feelings, and you would think that this is where the show would end. But no. Instead, it actually explores several other characters and their own versions of syndromes and phenomena that seem to only happen in this particular high school environment. Despite the chance of this happening being 1 in 6 billion in the world, seems our male lead is the primary motivator into bringing these girls together. Now comes the question, what scientific phenomenon is going on? Well, give it to the show's obvious best girl Rio to say it as it is. Quantum mechanics, but in the environment and atmosphere. Now, science being used to explain situations has been done in several anime before, even the really popular ones like Monogatari and to a lesser extent the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. But this is the first show I've seen in a long time that does something with it that the other shows, for the most part, seem to flub up on, fitting them into awkward, real teenage problems. And to explain more, we must look at 2 subjects in the lab today. Mai, our principal bunny girl, and Tomoe, our principal Tommy Texter. Mai is up first. She is a celebrity who started acting at a young age, but due to the pressures of the industry, decides to hold her career temporarily to study in school and give herself a break. She soon realizes though that people aren't actually seeing or hearing her. Even her names on emails or texts are all left blank. White Coat Rio has no belief in the syndrome and jots us down to a famous scientific hypothesis of Schrödinger's cat. It goes like this. You put a cat in a container with a hammer, a vial of hydrochloric acid, and a tiny amount of radioactive substance. If one atom of the radioactive substance decays, a tripwire goes, shattering the gas and killing the cat. If you open the container, the cat may or may not be dead. That means, if we are being philosophical about it, we can't be sure if that cat is going to die or live, leaving it in a state of uncertainty. That means Mai might be a living manifestation of this quantum superstition. In a way, the vast majority of people can't see her because they think she doesn't exist, which baffles us, the viewer, because she is a famous child star. It's not like she's dead or anything. Instead, it really comes down to if people believe she exists or she doesn't. By episode 3, we then discover that people, when they fall asleep, will forget about her existence and chalk it to a hazy dream. That is why Sakura's friend remembers her in the first 2 episodes, but then forgets about her the next time. The paradox is only fixed when Sakura confesses his feelings to Mai in front of the whole school, and thus, her existence comes into being once again. Now let's put down the science for a brief period here and view it as its own narrative increments. Mai is a rising pop star, so much so that people see her commercials and poster boards all across the city. However, that doesn't mean she lives a life of pure luxury. I'm sure you know by now that child stars almost always get the rough end of the stick and go down a rough line of addiction, mental instability, and psychological abuse from parents or agents to push harder. Take the scene when she was a middle schooler and was forced to wear a revealing bikini outfit for a photo op. For any kid, a young girl even, that could be traumatic sometimes. She felt like she was being used as a product, and no matter what she does, somehow that itch never goes away. And now that she leaves the spotlight, even if it's for a brief time, she will no longer be remembered. Even if she resorts to the same pandering as dressing as a sexy bunny, no one even raises their head. She is like wind pushing against a mountain, or a cat trapped in a box and people uncertain of her existence. So we can assume that Mai is the cat, the box is the school environment, the vial of gas is her celebrity image, and the radioactive substance is her school life. Then who represents the hammer? That would be Sakura and the public. When they fall asleep, that's the motion that breaks the vial, and thus, Mai dies from consciousness. The only way to bring her back is through love. Now, not to sound corny, but that is how the show brilliantly melds science with emotion, cause it both stands as a purely heartfelt moment while also playing the role as a social science experiment. Also, it made me cry. Why am I crying? This is so fucking dumb! But she isn't the only one in our case study. Tomoe, a high school cell phone addict, is up next. She and Sakura met after trying to find a kid's lost parents, only to then... Did I mention this show can be a bit weird sometimes? Her big issue is that she's supposed to be a Laplace demon, which is a type of determinism in the history of science that explains a person's awareness of every living atom in their zone, and that can mean their past and future values are entailed. Or in the show's term, she can do the Groundhog Day method of reliving the exact same day over and over again until she gets results. This is caused by her unique situation in trying to avoid isolation from her friends if she tries to let down a popular boy who might have an interest in her. Sakura acts as her fake boyfriend to ease suspicion and wane some tension off. The popular basketball player acts like an asshole the whole time and starts slut-shaming her, to which Sakura, in a pretty badass scene, puts the jerk down a peg and completely wins the fight through diversion and humiliating his opponent. Sorry to get off topic, but I need to do this. And I don't regret anything. Tomoe as the Laplace demon might as well be an exemplar of the common everyday group environment. Tomoe has said that she has worked very hard in keeping appearances and being as current as possible just so she doesn't have to lose a friend she has. She is totally content with it as it gives her meaning, but at the same time it also means she can't exactly branch out of her obligation to her group. If a cute guy asks her to be his girlfriend, by saying no she might feel more distant from her friends. Will they start to talk behind her back and make her feel even more alone? Tomoe could very well have anxieties on several possibilities that can come up if she turns this guy down, so she runs away and hides however she can. It's only until she comes into contact with Sakura that the paradox stops and time resumes normally. And then it starts back up again. She starts to develop her own feelings to Sakura, but realizes that he has already confessed his love to Mai, which leaves her, you guessed it, repeating the same day over again, which is the day she is supposed to officially break up with her fake boyfriend. Sakura realizes this almost instantly, but decides to go along with the facade a bit more until he inevitably has to force his hand to get her to stop holding back and be afraid of the results. She confesses her love, time resets back to when the whole situation started, and she tells the asshole jock, no, go fuck yourself. I mean, not really, but it basically means she doesn't have to feel afraid of losing her friends anymore, who she's grown quite close to. I shouldn't be stating the obvious here that stress in young adults' lives are at the worst. I've dealt with it most of my life, and because of it, I felt afraid to do several opportunities because of how it might affect my status, my friends, or even my personal values. Some of it I can say would have been bad overall, but many others I can say I regret not doing. We do still deal with anxiety and similar symptoms in our own adult lives, but when you are a teen, especially one that is part of a group chat, it can feel like the most stressful part of your life. But now, as we leave our two high school paradoxes behind us, we can assume that these are very complex theories. I've seen shows that do this entire concept of mixing science with narration done way worse, like in Future Diary, where the ideas of dimensions and parallel universes make huge plot holes and turns what was a decent watch into a really dull, misguided mess. Instead, Bunny Girl Senpai does the exact opposite. They make it simple, easy to follow, and allows the characters to put the pieces together organically. Now, I can think of a show that does the exact same thing. It's a show that is not like Monogatari or Haruhi, but in a show about two boys who try to defy the rules of science. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of my all-time favorite anime shows, and like Bunny Girl Senpai, it takes a complicated subject and makes it understandable to the viewer. Equivalent exchange is the best example I can draw. Something taken must be returned. To Ed and Alphonse to get what seemed like their mother back, they need to give both a soul and a leg to do so. A very simple idea, and it's a driving goal in the whole series to get their bodies back. Through physical and mental trials, they find solutions, understand failures, and come up with an answer. Both shows juggle unique scientific concepts in their own realm of possibility, where one is alchemy, the other is thought physics. Fullmetal Alchemist is a show roughly set in its own universe, and with its own set of scientific bearings. Bunny Girl is as well, but trades in the cool action set pieces and bombastic over-the-top powers for personal journeys and exploring the inner turmoils of youth. We've all had that experience where the world was out to get us. Like it was fate deciding your actions for you. You question yourself and try to think of possible outcomes about your situation. Like I stated, Rio doesn't even believe in the puberty syndrome. She instead uses the laws of physics and the unexplained to anchor our characters back into their senses. The scars of Sakura and Keita? Most likely the effects of self-harm from bullying or slander on social apps. Mai's disappearance from the public could be symbolic of an actress's fear of obscurity from the public eye. And Tomo's bending of space and time can be implied to the feeling of anxiety. So that concludes one thing. Rio is best girl in 2018. See you later, bitches. Okay, nah, I got some more to talk about. But she is best girl. The science is not 100% accurate in the show, but the ideas are, and it helps make Bunny Girl Senpai work overall. The characters, while still being well developed and likable, are relatable to our teenage identities. You could be a Sakura one day and then a Tomo the next. And it's thanks to the usage of quantum theories from our real-life studies that helps make this parallel world feel personal to the audience. The show doesn't need to overly explain how each system works for one problem. We just get a brief cliff note of it, and we find the conclusion. Take Sakura. In his entire arc with Mai, he gets a summary of the situation from Rio and then goes to examine with how to solve the problem. They go to a different city, and he realizes that all he needs to do is stay awake. But if you know how the human body functions, he can't do this for long. The experiment fails, and he can't remember her. All of a sudden, his memories come back to him, and all the tests he did, he comes to one final conclusion. By shouting out the love he has for Mai over the course of the experiment to the entire environment of the student body, he solves the problem and brings Mai back to everyone's attention. It's a vague understanding of the theory, but thanks to clever writing, symbolism, and nuance, Bunny Girl Senpai gives us the best insight of human psychology that I've seen in a long time. Science fiction is the best term to describe Bunny Girl Senpai, but instead of taking it to space, it's instead going for the your name approach and putting the fiction into our real world. The show is a complete marriage between the ideas that baffle the scientific community and the feelings and emotions we have inside of us. Feelings, in fact, find a compromise, and the combination, just like any experiment, can make for a fascinating bond. Bunny Girl Senpai isn't finished yet, and we still got plenty of other puberty syndrome girls to look at, and I'm continually watching up each week to see what comes next. And what a surprise to think we got thought-provoking symbolism, math, and more from somebody prancing around the reference section in a bunny suit. And because of that, Rio Futaba is going to the Waifu Bowl of 2018, where she faces off in the first round against Darling in the Franxx' 0-2. Hey guys, thanks very much for watching the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and tell me what you guys thought about Bunny Girl Senpai so far. We're not done yet, and I hope you guys actually enjoy it as much as I do. Please comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe as well for more content like this. It's your bra man, signing off.